think we'll just go over again the art of, say this again, the art of Al-Darz B'chol Sabriya. We went through a little faster, but the Nekuda is that with the Rebbe Mavar Da'azeh, there is the idea called as Sheyesh Malakah, which is before the mitzvah, Mitzad Atzmei, and that is the idea Sedan Eibishter. There's an Eibishter, someone which he is the absolute, whatever he wants goes, and he's the mitzvah, and you have to listen to what he says. But there is no hakar in what type of mitzvah is someone. It's not an Eibishter. But there's no taich to what type of being this Eibishter is. Is he the highest? The Rebbe said that even the basic taich that Eibishter, that it means that he's above, also that no taich. There's a mitzvah, there's a, not a mitzvah, there's a someone which an Eibishter is a God, which there's ultimate power, but not, he has ultimate power, but what type of mitzvah is it? So that is unkin shum pshat, unkin shum taich, what the pshat and what type of mitzvah is the Eibishter. That's the idea Malakah. The mitzvah is, with the Rebbe touches the Hemshech HaSicha, because the Eibishter himself, is beyond saying any taich. But the Eibishter himself, there's only him himself. There's no Iloi, no Shleimus, Nishkin Heichazach, not the ultimate greatest thing. The Eibishter is beyond any concept of Shleimus, of Iloi. The Atzmusi Baruch himself is done nar zayin mitzias. The Eibishter Alim. See, when the not Tinek is there, and also the concept of Avad Eichnish. So the Eibishter. There's no musagim linked to this Eibishter. That's in this idea that Tinek is no Sheyesh Malakah. Dort in Herzach der Retz. That's the famous Satam Hamar of this guy. That's what the Rebbe says before. Then the mitzvah is we soll lernen und verstehen the Shleimus of the Eibishter. And in the Shleimus there's two dargis. One thing the Shleimus al Seichel. What Seichel is mechayiv, what Seichel understands, the Ili of Elokus, which al Seichel is mechayiv. Then there is the Eibishter's Maila and Shleimus, which is L'mayla Migedra Seichel. The Eibishter's B'derech Klal relates to the Ili and the Maila of Elokus, which that is a bit of Nasi, but relates to the Giluyim, in other words, relate to the Milas and Shleimus that Elokus possesses. The Eibishter is not only saying that he should possess Milas. So the Eibishter is the Eibishter is about Mila also. Not that doesn't define who he is, and he's not. And if he wanted, he can say Nishter Musik for Milas. It's all mitzad. But the Poil Oliver saying to have the Indian for Milas, and the Milas Gufa, there's the Milas the way they are L'mayla and Seichel, and there's the Milas the way they are Al Seichel. Yeah. Just want to bring out this point. The Samalsetic says that the mitzvah is, according to the mitzvah is not Yidiyas Hashleimus Al Seichel. The mitzvah is to believe the Amunah. There are touches over here Yidiyah, but the Samalsetic in the Parsha of Yisacha, the mitzvah is Mizal Gleivin Ad Eibishter is L'mayla Madregis HaChacham. But that's not the Rebbe. According to the Samalsetic, the mitzvah, the Samalsetic read nicht during the Kota that there's any that the etzem has no connection to Milas at all. The way the Samalsetic brings it out, there's a Lakus, the Lakus Mitzvah and Seichel. Then there's the Maila of Lakus, the way the Eibishter is beyond Seichel. Erin Sof, Hekraf and Seichel. And the mitzvah is Mizal Gleivin Ad Eibishter is not limited to the way Seichel understands the Shleimus of Lakus. The Eibishter Shleimus Shlei Berach higher than the Maila Madregis HaChacham. All the Shaflois and Chassidus the Maila Madregis HaChacham. But also Inyan von Shleimus, that is the Inyan von Atzmos, which has nothing to do with the concept of Ilu Shleimus at all. That there's only it's done not the Eibishter and there's no concepts connected to that. The Rebbe teaches over here in the Hadran. The second, there's three shlav. There's the idea before the mitzvah, and then the mitzvah is so mitzvah idea from man and veis as dan Eibishter val lekus herzach, because the mar is bizgalus. So how do you know that this Eibishter that you know of mitzad lifnei mitzvah? That's because a mar is bizgalus. Not the seichel adam cannot create. The idea doesn't stem from seichel adam. This concept has nothing to do with your seichels, because the etzem is bizgalus. The mitzvah is, you should understand, what's the purpose of the mitzvah? That your seichel should come to the recognition that seichel has no say on what the Eibishter is. And b'meila, the seichel comes to hakara as that the Eibishter himself is only him himself, on Atash. So the idea, the second part that Rebbe speaks in the mitzvah that Yid has to know that the Eibishter is not mugbal and seichel, is not that nicht nur wie the Samalsetic gesagt, that a Yid should know that the Eibishter Shleimus is l'mayla v'geder ha-seichel. A Yid soll verstehen, he should understand that seichel was created, and therefore, whatever his seichel has no say. So also the concept of Shleimus doesn't exist. The Eibishter is not defined by seichel at all, not defined by any concept of so what soll sein seichel mechayiv sein? That seichel has nothing to say over here. And and he goes back, seichel is mechayiv, that what's the true essence of a lakus, There's an Eibusher unattached to the first idea. The mitzvah is that the fact that he has this idea, sheyesh malaka, at the Eibusher, the Eibusher's hekaf and attached, shouldn't only be because etzim is begillah b'him. His seichel is mechayev that alakus hatish k'tach. So someone said is saying that the mitzvah is result gleben. First of all, someone said is madgish in the mitzvah that it's emunah. That gleben as the Eibusher's hekaf and seichel. This whole agosha that Rebbe is saying here, the mitzvah is lo fashtim. I'm saying there's a reason why the Rebbe doesn't look like that Barbanel. It's negated all time shechini. The Samsadik learns is Kaviyachal starts with the question: what's the mitzvah of Unasalukus? How could you know? How could you begin mitzvahs without knowing about an Eibusher? The Barbanel's teretz taken according to the Samsadik. The reason why the Barbanel's teretz doesn't work is because you don't need a munah for that, and the Rambam calls the mitzvah Unasalukus. So Mela Samsadik says you have to say that the mitzvah is to believe that the Eibusher is higher than Seichel. That's the whole Hamanasalakus. The Rebbe is saying a whole different word. The Rebbe is saying the Rebbe is taking on the Barbanel. That the mitzvah is to know and to understand the Shloime Svolikus. But what's the purpose of knowing? So there's two targets. There's the Eibusher the way he is, and Kaviyachal him himself. The Eibusher is not defined that he has to be mufshit from Seichel. It's not defined by anything. The Rebbe is not touching it that way. The Rebbe is saying that the fact that Oliver is saying to be a shalom al Seichel is not a tnu of a satish ton semetzim. That's all for the sake as echet seichos al tzukum into the akara that there's an Eibusher which is beyond any musik of shleimus. That's the fact that Oliver is saying to also be mitzamtzim himself in the shleimus al Seichel. That's in order that also mitzad mitzias so tzukum into the akara that the Eibusher himself is not mugdir in Seichel. So it's a whole different word. So therefore, someone said the Rebbe nemtiyah on the beard of the Barbanel. Because the whole word, the Rebbe is not saying that either. It's not a shaila of belief. The whole word of the mitzvah is that this emes, asdan eibishter, on oyser emes garnish eshta, whatever he wants, this truth that the eibishter is not linked with any concept, with any inyan, and there's only him. This truth should also the mitzvah sadam should also come to the conclusion of this emes. That's the kavanos of mitzvah. So in order for that to be, that for learning and verstehen, so in order for the seichel to cut, he has the seichel to understand that whatever he understands is garnished. Eba mentions versteht the tinoik is which don't understand anything. So their yedin alukus comes from because the etzim is this guys. Not that their mitzias came to the conclusion that they can't understand. The mitzvah is that the fact that the Eibusher is not defined by anything, a person's mitzias should get to that conclusion. Should be from the aspect of his mitzias, and not only because the truth is beginning. So for that, darf man take a verstehen. On freer verstehen al Seichel. Your Seichel has, first of all, on Pashtus, your Seichel has to function. You have to understand. And then if to come to the conclusion that whatever I understand is Agbala and it doesn't define him. And the Seichel was created. So that's so. And the second thing is, the Rebbe adds here, and the Poil, it's not only how you're getting to the first idea. The Poil, it's not so easy getached but that's in more other places. Then, the word is that the Yediyah Rishena shouldn't just be in a Makiv de Gaitrim. That does la durchnemen der Mensch, as a leichen by him. It should be Meir by him. The fact that the Eibusher is higher than Tfisa shouldn't just be, say, someone that doesn't understand anything. The Tinek is v'zogen sheyesh alaka. This yesh alaka has no effect on his mitzias. The Hadran that there's an Eibusher which is beyond his mitzias, which mitzias has no say legabi him. And he doesn't inherit the Iliyah. I'm not saying not the Iliyah in the sense that the Eibusher is Dachas Iliyah. He doesn't sense the hafla of this Inyan. The mitzvah is that this etzem, this atzmos, should also zol echet adurchnem in the mitzvahs, to come to the conclusion mitzvah the seichel, and that the etzem zol meir sein in the mitzvahs. You see what I'm saying? It should be meir. The Rebbe says always that the kavanah is not stam the Rebbe tachtenim, but it should be a lichtiger dire. The atzmos zol adurchnem in the tachter. This Inyan Sudan et Sudan hu yizbarach, which is higher than any taich, that should be in a way that it shines in the person. It's like that. It has an effect on him. Der Ili in der Zach. So when could you heard the Ili of this Inyan that the Eibusher is beyond any understanding if you appreciate understanding? You say, Aval Bekain, this is all limited. The Eibusher himself is beyond it. Not beyond it that he's greater. The Eibusher himself created this notion that my Seichel understood. It doesn't have to be. Let's say a person that has a Seichel Nailamid, a learned Sagas and Chassidus, V'Yurim Nifloim in the Musig of Blikvol, says, and all this is created. The Eibusher Alein Yish Mugdin in that. So then you're not. So first of all, Seichel has to come to the recognition that this Musig Naila that he understood is a Nibra. That's one thing. So that's, soll verstehen, as wir können verstehen. You should understand that. But then also the idea and the etzem is in a different eifin. Then since not only the conclusion comes mitzad the seichel, but also he hears the Reichkeit in the seichel. The fact that the Eibishter is beyond any shemis is in a way that he hears it makes an impression. But the Hertes, der Reichkeit von Olikus. So that seichel can nicht verstehen, and seichel has no seichel gabim. Why? Seichel is a davar nifla. After the has no seichel gabim. So the Eibishter is the Herta Reichkeit. So the etzem is not just in a way of higher than Gilei, it's mizgal in the person. It's a herzach and seichel, the Indian etzem. You understand what I'm saying? The two points that I'm saying. Should be mitzad the mitzias and b'meila also I'm saying the l'shenis. This one advice was what is bringing because the Rebbe brings here in this gimel. You see the gimel in Sivches gimel. The mitzvah is Yediyah. There's first Yediyah mitzvah sivish, the Yiddish Shloime. Then Yediyah na'alas yesher. What's the Yediyah na'alas yesher? Shehu yisbarach einei mugder begeder aseichel. But this mizol das wissen that the Eibush is nicht mugder aseichel. In Yinzev, Eibush is Yediyah. What does mean Eibush is Yediyah? So what does the Rebbe Mad Geshir? Seichel should understand that he was created. Stam say someone never used the seichel. The Eibush is mekabel and mekanish verstehen. They're fine. Person should understand. And when you say, I understand that seichel is creation. What does seichel mean? I understand that a table was created. Yeah, everybody understands that if I create a box here, so me'echa taste, the Eibush is living in the box that I just made. But there's, was for a seichel retzach? As I'll verstehen that it's verschaffen geworden. The mitzvah to understand, you should have a korep, as kol echad ufiyerke, in the shleimas of a lukus, which could be nizgal in seichel, which are also dvar in the flame. The shleimas of a lukus, that seichel is mechayiv. And l'chura seichos mechayev, that this is ultimate shleimus, and to understand that it's also a geder, it's also agbala, and since agbala was created, the Eibush is nicht mugder in that. So verstehen das. So the Rebbe is mad geschir the word, not and b'meila the herd da flow of etzem. That's not what the Rebbe. The fact that the Eibush is not connected to seichel, it's there's a flow there. The Tinekis which say an Eibush there, so they don't have any concept of any yaker of anything. So the fact is, Eibush how does get touch? Stamazir has no touch. I don't know, or I don't know because it's something which is far beyond knowledge. Knowledge is too small to grasp it, or knowledge is too mitzumtzum to grasp it. So if someone says, I don't know, Stamazir I don't know, or I don't know because I understand, or I have it there, that knowledge is too mitzumtzum to grasp such a that's a whole different tfisa. So first of all, mitzvah is all verstehen, am kenish verstehen. So the part that the Rebbe touches up in the pnim is that the fact that there's an Eibush which has no taich, that should stem from seichel. Seichel should come to recognition that he can understand the lukus. That's what the Rebbe is not geshir. But the Rebbe is that's what the Rebbe is not geshir in pnim. You heard the meaning. The nekudah that the idea rishena should be mitzad seichel. Not the word that the etzem is meir. Mashenkin in the order 23, there the Rebbe is not gish the word. That the fact that the Atmos, the Rebbe touches the Gabi Samatzadeh, but L'chur is also the Gabi the Hemshech Hadran. That the fact that Atmos is higher than Shiurim, that should be in a way that their head there are flush with it. The Etzem which is higher than a Taich is also Cheren and Seichel. That's what the Rebbe touches. It says, Kemitzvah Shigamini Deram V'niska V'yeh Beifin Deleda. Not just that the fact that the Eibush is higher than a Taich should be the conclusion of Seichel. This notion, this Eibush which is higher than any Taich, those zal sein and even from Yiddi, as does their head. You should appreciate this in. It should be made in your mayach. How is it made in your mayach? When you understand that whatever I understand has no seil gabiyim, and you understand, you appreciate the Geidel HaSeichel, the Geidel HaShleimus HaPeseichel, and Avav again, he's beyond that. So you appreciate his heichkeit. It's not stam words. You heard the meaning. It's very young. Okay. So let's see, Order 26, just Hadran Azor B'chol Sabriya. Yeah, the Rebbe brings in Siftes that we see this Nekudah Asada Frier in front of the Nekudah Se'elyin. There's the Nekudah of the Eibishter, beyond any Pirushim. Ratzon Elyin, Mitzvah is his Ratzon. And then there is Ratzon, not in the sense of Ratzon, in the sense of there's no Inyan. There's him. And Kach Oliver Tzeni, this mitzvah. It doesn't mean the Tnu of Ratzon. And then there is that it's nimshach through seichel, and the conclusion of seichel is an weg mezol wissen sein Ratzon Elyon, sagdin. So this truth that the kavanah is dan Eibishter, and this Eibishter has to be also mitzad seichel. You see that in the general oifen in shtasel of Torah mitzvahs. And then like the Rebbe tzu mizet seichet in the klolis in Habriya, not only in his oifen his galus haTorah, but also in Seder klolis Habriya. So first of all, there is the Ratzon Livrei Yisrael mitzad atzma, which is way from the Nisave, Taiva Shalom Ala Me'atam. And then there is for Zer and Itzchayim timing for the Bria. But what does the Rebbe say here? Omnam, this is very easy-geteshed. HaKavana metamim eluhu, b'chdei shal yodam tushlam ha'chagach HaKavana tira b'tachtoin, tira l'Atzmus. It says, Nisave is an Atzmus. Nisave is, there's the Rebbe said, a fatay effect which can kasha. That means that what's the Kavana Sabriya? There's no shleimus in creating a world. The world and the world being a dira to the Eibishter doesn't contribute anything. When he's saying it's at the time of Berdeshis Galish Shleimus Kachaisav. So let's say the Vart, he say that in order for the Eibishter's Kaiches to materialize it themselves, there's certain shleimus that a Kaich doesn't stay in a potential state, but also comes into a Pe'el Mamish. And that took place through his Havasayil. Or there should be the gile of the Ispasha Seir, all those biurim. That's in Yonim and Alakus, which they're completed, they're nishlam through creating a world. How is the Eivish's bleak vol going to express itself? Through creating a world. If the world is not created, so the Eivish's bleak vol is not going to be expressed. So creating a world is mashlim something in Alakus. There's them to get to the other Yonim. Mashegim mitzad this ave. The world doesn't contribute anything to Elokus. The Eibush has no touch. It's not shy to say that his Inyan is going to be completed through a world, and he's not any distinct Inyan. And what's the kavanah? That he should be beginning this world. So what's the part of timing? Why is there biyurim in Kabbalah and in Yonim that the world expresses? If there would have been this Havas inside this Ava, there wouldn't have been time, and then the world wouldn't be a certain type of mitzvahs. Wouldn't have a function. Say with a person. If you see mitzvah atzmus is baruch on the word that all the pretended to have to be mistamtzim and seichel. So there's no mitzvahs. There's him. There's the Eibishter himself. There'll be no concept of there's a logical system or a form the way the Vrayim function. So then, the kavanah is not only that the truth of the Eibishter should be mitzad the fact that he's begoled. The mitzvahs should come to that truth. But again, the more adgosh and the pnim, that the fact that there's a huyas baruch, that should also be the conclusion from the point of view of the system. When the seichel should think according to the logical system, he should think it come to the conclusion that logic has no say when it comes to the truth, when it comes to the ultimate truth. Logic is limited. The system should say that. For that, you need a system. You need to have some rules. You need to have a way the mitzvahs functions. So the alderech zeh mitzvah meret legabi mitzvah tam abiyur, but the nekul beifin klali is the in of his galish shleimus kachaisav and all the time was bringing in Zohar and Kabbalah. That's all that the world is created in a way that there's a certain mashmos to the mitzvah. There's a certain system. There's Eid expressed. There's in Yonim of Kalim. There's a system of how the world functions, which is rooted in this Galish Shleimus Kachaisav and the Biurim and Kabbalah. The kavanah is that Sof Kol Sof is also felt that the time are not enough, and the reason and the ultimate purpose why the world is created is Val Nisava. The kavanah is that the fact that this havas, the fact that the whole Mitzvah Sa'ilum is only Mitzvah Eibishter, that the Mitzvah is al Tzukum into them. So for that you need to have the time. There's a menechos thing, but there is mevayer that you have in the. I'm saying is that through the timing, the fact that the whole Mitzvah Sa'ilum was all mitzad diralat musay, that should be something that the gedarim of Eilam should bring to that emes. Yes, that kind of beauty with them. Das way from Claudia. Okay, let me get a bit weiter. This is what it is. We're going to go weiter a little bit. Okay. We're holding Sifyut. Now the Rebbe says like this. Now the Rebbe is going back to answer the question in the beginning of the Hadran. There's also some important things till the end. Two main important things, but this is important to halten bissel in Sinne nechet. what was the basic kasha? The kasha was, why is the Rambam is not a sefer of story, is not telling us what's going to be, how the world's going to look when Mashiach comes. Why is the Rambam matkish a full perek, the end of the last perek of Hilchos Malachim? Why is the Rambam matkish a full perek to describe how the world is going to be when Mashiach comes? There will be no hunger, there will be no this, no that. Whether Garzev and Keves is a mashal, not a mashal, Manaf Kimina. There will be walls with lambs, or there won't be, Manaf Kimina, all these details. And there won't be hunger, Manaf Kimina. So the Rebbe wanted to say that what's Mashiach Hapidin, Shleimus of Teira Mitzvahs. Ultimate, there will be Teira Mitzvahs, will be Shleimus. That's the gather of Mashiach Hapidin. That can only take place only if there's no hunger, for example. If a person's hungry, so he doesn't have he can't function to learn. So the Rambam doesn't bring not all pratim which are mentioned in Nevuah does the Rambam bring in Sefer Hayat. Only those pratim that are ma'afsher, it should be kiyum ateiru mitzvahs kahigin b'shleimus. Those pratim, the fact that the world's going to be, the fact that we'll be able to do kiyum ateiru mitzvahs is going to be thanks to the fact that there won't be hunger and there won't be war. But Meir doesn't kind of learn of him in that. So the fire bring the Rambam this pratim because shleimus ateiru mitzvahs is that's what Mashiach is, and the Rambam is telling you the details which are ma'afsher is al ken zay shleimus ateiru mitzvahs. Yeah. People think say the fact that there will be no hunger is an Indian for itself. There will be no hunger, there will be no war. The Rebbe is saying the whole no hunger, no war, Mashiach is Shleimas HaTeira V'Mitzvah. That's only the Rambam saying. How is it going to happen? Because there won't be hunger. There won't be hunger. We made them to kind of learn of him in that. But not. There's no Al Pi Halacha. There's no chshivus in the very fact that lay year of in Pashtus, according to the Rebbe's Avar in this Hadran. But Akoponim, so the shaila is so what's the Rebbe? So it doesn't. The Rebbe says it's not a beer maspik. Because at the end of the day, what's B'yas Mashiach Hapidin? The fact that there's going to be Shleimas HaTeira V'Mitzvahs. L'manaf Gemina, how it's going to take place. What's the difference in Sefer Hayah? Why is it halacha to believe that B'yas that the world's that there won't be any hunger in the world? The only thing that's negated to believe is Amaret Legabe the Emunah B'yas Mashiach that there's going to be a time there's going to be the ultimate and the most ideal Kiyum HaTeira Mitzvahs. How is that going to happen? L'manaf Gemina, how it's going to happen? Whether it's going to happen al Pines or Shalei al Pines. Why isn't it get to the gather of B'yas Mashiach Hapidin to believe that the fact that you're going to have Shleimas HaTeira Mitzvahs is because there will be no hunger? What situation is going to be ma'afshir us to have Shleimas HaTeira Mitzvahs? It's also not even going to have Shleimas HaTeira Mitzvahs will be alpines. Why is it a chelik of the Emunah B'yas Mashiach to understand that why you're going to be able to learn Torah is dafshir zayin because there won't be hunger, there won't be war, and therefore the only involvement is going to be the Das Hashem. Why is it important how we're going to come to this Hakar? That's the shalom of the Rebbe to gefragt. L'chura that B'yas Mashiach Hapidin is as was not Shleimas HaTeira V'Mitzvah. That's the einzige Sache was from Darvis. All the other pratim are side factors. That's the shayla. So here the Rebbe's Meisa first. It's almost what the Rebbe said before, but the Rebbe adds another word from other places, but it has a whole different understanding according to what the Rebbe teaches in this Hadran. The Rebbe says this: Inyan mitzvahs. What's in yonam of mitzvahs? What's the purpose? Mitzvahs. What's the purpose? Lifil bekeches ve'evri ha'adam ba'advarim shebe'elam shiur k'firas HaTeira. So the Rebbe's Maarich Barichs and Hadran Lamed about this. That the whole inyan of mitzvahs is, or the whole inyan of halachis in Rambam is, midafton rotzne elin with chafatzim ba'elam. What's the purpose? That the world should be behesem with halacha. That's in yonam of mitzvahs. That's a Richs and Hadran Lamed. That in yonam of haliches elam lay, the purpose, the objective in a mitzvah is to affect that the world should be according to it should be behesem with halachos, behesem with Torah. Means there's the truth the way it is up Torah. In Yonam of Mitzvah is that the world should be behesem to that truth. Say there's a vitamin and a nefesh. So the nefesh is a kayachariyah, and in order for the kayachariyah has to be reflected by the guf. See, the guf has to have a keli to express the kayachariyah. The kavanah is that the truth of Torah should be nizgal in velt, and the kavanah is not so is be nizgal in velt in a way that velt should be a keli to the sin. So the whole kavanah of mitzvah is that the world should be a keli to Torah, behesem to the way it is up Torah. The Rebbe is saying this in the language of this Hadran. The nisuach that's here is from the Hadran Lamed, but according to what the Rebbe is bringing the guy with this Hadran, the Rebbe is saying the whole kavanah sabriya. It's going to be esketash, but the whole kavanah sabriya is Seda Ahu Yisbar, Seda Nebishter. What's the mitzvah v'diyas Hashem? It's not the kavanah is that this Ebishter, our knowledge of him, shouldn't only be mitzad the fact that there's an Ebishter. But the Metzias versteht es nicht. The Kavanah is at the Metzias Adam soll durchgenommen werden with this Hu Yisbarach. That's why this mitzvah is Hashem. The mitzvah is what's at the end of the day the mitzvah. You should understand and come to the conclusion that you can't understand. Means and come to the conclusion that the Eibishter is beyond understanding. And that Eibishter which is beyond understanding should be made in your Meir. So, durch nehmen dein Metzies. Your Seichel should understand the mechanics. Your Metzies should be behesem with the Emes. So, which Emes is the Rebbe speaking about in the Gavidei Hashem? The Emes von Atzmos, the Kavanah is that the Metzies should be behesem to the Emes of Atzmos. The truth, the Eibishter is beyond the Taich, should be Mitzad Seichel. And that's the, so the Rebbe starts off, what's in Yonam of Mitzvahs? That the world, the Rebbe didn't say it right now, the Rebbe is not saying it, the world should be a Keli to Atzmos yet. The Rebbe is saying, what's in Yonam of Mitzvahs? That the Metzies all zayin, Apitayr, behesem Mitayr. I'm saying already what's going to come out of this happening. You know, it's a little case of what in the Tom Shabelam, she kviras atayr. Hainu shamitzvus pel in ba'adam ba'ilam, sheyiyu betzir hamasim b'chol pratem kfi shem tzrichim lis api Allah din atayr. So now, there's touching us upward. You're saying, what's the shayla? L'manaf kemina, the ikr is the loss of is going to be shleimas atayr of mitzvahs. The mitzvahs b'shleimas. L'manaf kemina, who's going to be ma'afsher that shleimus? L'manaf kemina, if it's going to be apines or it's going to be apitah. They're saying the whole kavan of Torah mitzvahs is that the world should be a keli talakus. If the fact is b'shleimas atayr mitzvahs is going to be mitzadanes, so that's the inner for Torah mitzvahs. In the whole Indian of why the Eibishter gave mitzvahs is in order to affect the world, that the world should be behesem with Torah. Shleimus, not why is Torah not expressed fully today? Because the world is not behesem to Torah. Last of it, the world is going to be fully behesem to Torah. The Torah can is a eis for him shleimus. So the get of Mashiach is about what's Mashiach shleimus at Torah mitzvahs. What's the mechuvim for Torah? For why the Eibishter give Torah mitzvahs lamata? That the world should be that way. So if someone believes, so the Vart, it's not standard the fact that Leir of Leir the Muhammad is just a technical ma'afsher that will be limited to Torah mitzvahs. That means there's going to be a time that the mechuvan of why Torah mitzvahs were given is going to happen or not. It's like this. Later, actually, der Welt allein, hier bei the Mala Art is der Savaye, but the Shief shelo Adam l'kayim mitzvahs Hashem b'shleimus. So Meil, it's not stam. So first of all, it's not stam davar tzad. This is the whole inyanim of Torah mitzvahs. Now, the Fiza, the Rebbe is going to explain why this the whole shakbatari of some sefer. Why is emunah beis Mashiach? Why is it ikr bados? There's a gimel ikrim. A person has to believe everything that's written in Torah is true. What's the gimel ikrim? There's certain things I mentioned this last time. There's certain things that if a person doesn't know that there's an isser of muktzah, he doesn't erase nicht. He's not okay for erase nicht. Is he missing an understanding of what the concept of Yiddishkeit is? He's not missing understanding the concept of Yiddishkeit. Maybe he is. I'm not. Maybe muktzah is. But even clearly, if he doesn't know it, didn't prati, they're not allowed to be mafsik between this time and that time. So he's not missing an essential pillar of what Yiddishkeit is all about. There's 13 principles of faith. As is HaRambam. 13 principles that if you don't know them, you have a wrong understanding what Yiddishkeit is all about. If someone thinks that Torah mitzvahs was man-made by Moshe Rabbeinu, versteht nicht, Torah mitzvahs is a gettliche Sache. It's not some man-made thing. All these Gimelikim are in Yonim that without knowing them, you're having a wrong understanding of what Torah mitzvahs is. So some say, why is Bias Mashiach Ikr Badas? Why not committed? The Eibishter gave us mitzvahs, we have to do what the Eibishter says. Whether we're going to get it will be schar, won't be schar. He understood the whole Musik of Bias Mashiach is in of schar. So, but I've told them the Eibishter will feel on schar. The Eibishter created us, and we have to do what he wants. Why is it Ikr Badas? So the Rebbe teaches the whole mechuvan of mitzvahs is that the world should become behesem to the way the Eibishter wants. See, there's a mitzvah of Shabbos. At the end of the day, the mechuvan of why the Eibishter gave Torah lamata, that the world should be in a state of rest on Shabbos. The last love that you can schlepp at Teina and Teina is going to scream Shabbos hayim. The kavanah is that the world should be behesem at Holocaust. The world should be in Azam Asher Leifen, that the Teva Elam is in a way that Shabbos come in a Shabbat. Or Gitvarim Kayitzvei. The Mitzvah is also that's the whole mechuvan. So if a Yid doesn't believe that the world one day is gonna be a Keli Torah mitzvah, so he thinks that the Eibishter's plan is an abstract plan. It's a theoretical plan. Someone he gave a plan in order we should have what to do. So it's one of the ikr. If a person doesn't believe in Bias Mashiach, it means that the mechuvan of Torah mitzvah is going to actually materialize itself in Welt. So he has a wrong understanding of Yiddishkeit. He thinks that Torah mitzvah is a mufshid. And Torah mitzvah is something which it's not an abstract concept. It's not an idea. Elokus is Ein Sof, and it's the mitzvah of Welt sein. It's not Torah mitzvah is a blueprint of how the world has to be. and it's gonna it's gonna be nishlam lepoil. So it's not just wishful thinking. So that's an ikr. Someone's going to war and he thinks that there's no way of winning this war. We have to fight. We're part of this general, so we have to go fight. Or he's going to war and he knows that it's a practical plan, and everything he does is making this. We're getting a step closer to that. Is Yiddishkeit a theoretische Sach, or it's a practical thing that we're going to actually even machen well. So that's the Rebbe. So the Shloime lefi this beer. So the Rebbe sagt that beer. The rayis kaviyocha for this. If there is rayis from Forashis, there is rayis in the Lamed Hey. There be some more mekayres that the mechuven of mitzvahs is uftan in welt. It's not stam. The Eibusha gave us mitzvahs to be busy. The mechuven is that the world should be affected and be behesim mitologos. So therefore, what did I explain the Fiza? Therefore, we understand why it's part of the Emunah B'Yis Mashiach. Because what's Mashiach Shleimus HaTorah Mitzvahs? What does it mean Shleimus HaTorah Mitzvahs? You'll be able to learn B'Shleimus. Shleimus, that the ultimate goal, what Torah Mitzvahs were given for, is going to be accomplished. So Shleimus HaTorah Mitzvahs includes that the world's going to be a keli to Torah Mitzvahs. That's the first word the Rebbe says. Then the Rebbe asks, the Fiza, we understand why it's an Iker Badas. Why is it an Iker? The question is, if you don't believe in it, then you think that it's a theoretical plan. You don't see that it's a practical plan. So you have a wrong understanding what Yiddishkeit is. Goes like the Rebbe though. Says v'yesh Shloime shezeo gam me'atam ha'ma she'omru yismshechu ikar badas. Why? Ki b'zeh mudgish ha'in l'shemus ha'terah v'mitzvahs she'seif seif yifalu ha'terah mitzvahs ba'elam she'yeh b'matzav kazeh she'yasam l'kim ha'terah mitzvahs v'shleimus. So v'tak ezayin hazeh. Sof kol sof the welt tak evern hazeh. It's not just the with the Rebbe's madgish, I'm saying it more, do you take it as a theoretical idea or you take it as a practical idea? But in a more tifreif in the Shayla is Torah and mitzvahs true on a ruchnisdika level or is true on all levels? Der Welt wird sein as it. The Tachnish ain't Tachlam Ate Mene wird sein as it. So that's, do you understand that the Eibishter, he's ain't safe? And if he wants something, every level of Metzias is going to be a kidding for that. Or the Eibishter is too high, the world is too low. That's what the Rebbe says here. He says, why is it Ikar Badas? Ki bezem mudgish shleimus HaTorah mitzvahs. I think that's that gosh here. That Abe Imitzer meant that the Welt that came on sein behessen to Torah mitzvahs. The world is too low. Or the Torah mitzvahs are two great ideals. The world is never going to be a keli for it. So he's diminishing the Ein Sof of Torah mitzvahs. Der Herten is the shleimus from Torah mitzvahs. So it's an Ikar Badas to understand that Torah mitzvahs is not only true b'ruchnis enyonim. It's true ad lamatamatam. On sof sof v'tak azayna zil lepoil mamish. Pashat b'mtzias mamish, the world's going to be a keli to that. Yes, zera shtaka word. The Rebbe says these inyonim as but here this Hadran, I don't know if any other is getached. So there's a sirchilik it ches balak, which is in the Dramachos, but there it's not brought out so with a lashon brura. Steht as a gewerte dort, but it's not eisgetached. And this Hadran is much more eisgetached. The Indian, the Clarkite. Pisa Yuvan, Masha Rambam, Meirich, but so if you have to verstehen, but the Rambam is Meirich, but here Matzav Elam Shiur Mesim Mashiach. After the Matzav Elam will rak tonight study. Shatezi Yefshe Bikim Atem Mitzvah Shleimus. So the Rebbe says that's a chelik of Mashiach. What's B'Yis Mashiach? Shleimus HaTorah Mitzvahs. What Shleimus? A development design is it. If someone's going to believe that is going to be that the reason why I'm saying it wrong, Shleimus Torah Mitzvahs, what the Shleimus that the world's going to be like that. So that's you're believing that Torah Mitzvahs will one day be in the most ideal way, which means that the world is going to be behesem with Torah Mitzvahs. So now I'm telling you one of the pratim and bias you have to believe is that there's going to be the world's going to be in a state which is going to be ma'afshir al piteva kiyama Torah Mitzvahs. There won't be hunger, there won't be war. Means the world's going to be in a way which will be behesem to Torah Mitzvahs. How does that happen? Through doing mitzvahs is manaseh. כי בזה שהאלם יהיה במצב כזה, מזבט השלם את המצווה שפעלם גם באלם. ולכן נכלול גם פרוטם אלם אחיו דאמונה בייס המשיח. Versteht the meaning? Here the Rebbe says a very tight word in Order 35. Was kommt das in der Pneu? That for was is the Rambam Meirich, the Metar, that the world's going to be in a way that's going to let us learn. Not that's going to, we're not going to be able to learn because it's going to be a nest. Even though we're going to be hungry, the Avish is going to make a nest, we're going to learn. The world's going to be in a way which is going to be a keli to Torah mitzvahs. Why is that neged? Because that's shleimus of Torah mitzvahs. Mashiach is Torah mitzvahs b'shleimusam. Torah mitzvahs b'shleimus means the world is in sync with the Avish, with Torah mitzvahs. Now, Eba Zeh, the Rebbe said this. So, Shafa became Mashinis Avu. The Rambam says, "Lenis Avu Chacham Lenis Mashiach, Leikadei Sheyishlat Bo Akol Ha'olam." But Leikadei, what does it say? I don't know different things it says with it. El Kadei Sheyipnuyim B'Torah V'Chachmas. So the Rebbe gebracht freer. Really. The Rebbe said before, how could they say that the chelik of the Emunah B'Yis Mashiach is that there won't be hunger? The Rambam himself says earlier that we're not aware that Chachamim were looking for Mashiach because it's not going to be hunger in the world, only to be able to learn. So you see from the Rambam sagt doch that it says himself, Leinis Ava Chachamim for anything to do with the Matzah V'Eilam. So how does the Rebbe say here that the B'Yis Mashiach is negeya? At the Volta Zanakeli, the Rambam himself says that the Chachamim when they were Misav B'Yis Mashiach, that the world should be Behesim Holocaust. Why were they waiting for Mashiach? What was their taiva? Mizal Kenan learn and mer Torah. The Volta Zainas and Nish Zainas say that was not in the equation. As the Rambam says, they didn't think about the world. Mizal Kenan Sheyuprim B'Torah V'Chachmas. So of course it's still to the pnim. This is the Rebbe said like this. Shafa became Mashinis Avu Yimei Mashiach. Chorak B'Dei Las B'Dei Mitzvahs Kerim. This is a very stark word. The Rebbe is saying here. The Rebbe teaches it that there's two chiyuvim. There's a chiyuv to believe in Mashiach, which the Rebbe teaches. Why is it so important to believe in Mashiach as an ikar badas? Besides the fact that it's written in Torah, why is it important to believe in it? Because if you don't believe in it, you think a Torah mitzvah is lacking. They can only be on a say removed level. They cannot be practically. Practically, the world can't be behas and Torah mitzvahs. So if you don't believe that the world's going to be a keli, you don't believe in the truth. You don't believe in Shevat Torah mitzvahs. That's negea in Amunah. But then there's a chiyuv to wait for Mashiach. L'chakes l'biyasi. Kol mi she'nei ma'amin b'vei mechakal. Mechakal l'biyasi is a yid has to look forward for Mashiach's coming. You don't have to look forward that the world's going to be a keli. That's not nichal the chiyuv l'chakes. You have to only look forward. Zayin mazal kena learn in Torah b'yis after zayin. Shleimas ha-Torah mitzvahs. The fact that you don't have to await. You're not eager that the world should be a keli. That's not. If you don't believe that it's feasible, that it's possible, you think that's going to be in theory, felt by there in the Shleimas ha-Torah mitzvahs. Aber ayid avzuch the Eibishter. The Eibishter is Torah mitzvahs. This Eibishter is not limited. The melee can also be involved. The fact that the world is a keli, the nekuda is not in the fact that the world is a keli. The nekuda is the Hui Yisbarach. But this Hui Yisbarach is not defined. Is there Eichet involved? It's the Shleimus ha'inyan. The Shleimus ha'inyan is that Torah mitzvahs does not define to be dafka higher. They're also involved. But in what's that from ligen? The nekuda is Torah mitzvahs. That's the nekuda. The nekuda is the lukus. A lukus is not defined. If you take him in a way that he has to be dafka removed, or not from the point of view of mitzias, you're limiting him. He's not limited. He's everywhere. He's in everything. He's from every point of view, from every aspect. But everywhere, that's the shleimus of a lukus. Nicht in dem besteht the nekuda se'inyan. The nekuda se'inyan, so you have to believe in it. But what you're waiting for, what you're eager for, what you're misave is to the nekuda of Torah mitzvahs gufa. So you can say pasha, but this Shavi Mashin Savi Mitzvah Shavi the last of the mitzvahs gehen. Ki Mash Yudi tzarich lis avis is shleimus Torah mitzvahs. Was was an ayitz taive betere v'chachmas. Mash egen matzav ha'elam da, ha ma'afshir sa shleimus Torah mitzvahs. Is shleimus shu nichla be'ikar b'chiv ha'munah b'yis Mashiach. V'lei b'chiv l'chakis l'biyasi. Means there's a difference between what's the core and the fact that this core is not defined. They say the completion of it. The kavanah is that this mahus should be without limits. What's the nekudah that the world should be a keli? What's the vart we want? What's the gosha that we want? That the seichel should, I'm saying in the pnim, that the das ha'adam should also be a keli to that. What's the point? Because it's important for us das. Or this Eibusha should be everywhere. This Hui Yisbarach shouldn't only be from the point of view of higher, it should also be inside the gather of Mitzias. It's all at the Hui Yisbarach sein b'chol makom. Vasayid of trachten is when they get to the nekudas elukus. Just don't limit it. B'meila can be in all aspects. That's not. But the nekuda is the Hui Yisbarach, not the shleimus ha'elam. It attaches up very strong, but it's one of the points of the Hadran. This word that the inyan of the fact that there's a mitzvah, it's uftan in the mitzias, we're not leaving the nekudas etzem. It's not that there's an etzem, and then now the Eibush has mitzvah himself. Let's deal with seichel ha'adam. Let's refine the mitzias. The kavanah is that this Hui Yisbarach, he should be everywhere. He shouldn't be from a certain vantage point or from an abstract way. he should be from every aspect. So the ganze Zach von Bitter Elam is a prat in a Lakuz being everywhere. In the Huyas birth being B'chol. It's not a deviation from the. So does Dik in them that was darf erwarten and was darf liegen, mit darf liegen in the fact that B'teira b'chachmas. Because that's the core. No, this Indian isn't going to be an Alifan. You heard the meaning.
Isn't there like a Kabbalah that like bring the Eibush to the Matra?
Well, with it, what's the Indian Shabbat? Because the Eibush has no limits. It's not a separate thing we want. There's someone being asuk in the emes himself. They're saying the emes himself is beyond mitzvahs. The Hui is baruch, the idea shalifnei atzivui has no shaykhs to mitzvahs at all. It's not Eibush. There's no seichel, no shtakin das. So not an erdaf tzikei dach nishlan kommen. This Indian has to be everywhere. Welche Indian darf sein b'chol? What I'm saying is in a certain way, if the tzipiyah, the Rebbe is Maamar here in the Hadran, if a yid's tzipiyah to Mashiach is also, he's excited that the world's going to be a keli telikus. Then that's a deviation from the primis Indian. But first there has to be the idea clause. What's the idea clause? As dan ebishter. There's stuck in seichel, there's stuck in das, the garnish stuff. Dan ebishter. He doesn't need seichel. There's an ebishter that doesn't need seichel. He's not built from seichel. Dafür shankum is the ganze mitzvahs. He's unattached. This unattached, saf kol saf, the mitzvahs dafür is the hand. What does that the mitzvahs have to the head? That the mitzvahs has of chshivas. And after he also has to realize that he's nothing. The mitzvahs also has come to the conclusion that seichel was created.
Why?
What do you mean? What's the question? Why?
I'm saying
There's an Eibishter higher than mitzvahs.
Why is it important that it gets to the Matra?
There's no question why.
So that means there is an importance.
No. First of all, what do we want you to be Meir Lamata? That Eibishter, Legabe him, you can't say that things are important or not important. The Tineik is this Eibishter at Tineik is know about. What are you going to say? Why does he want? There's no Hibachal. What do you mean? Why does he want? This he has no touch. Why does he want? You can't ask why. But what Alibert saying? That this nekuda which has no shaykhs to mitzvahs does all mitzvah mitzvahs. So Eiba in a yider vart. So the whole nekuda is that the fact that there's only the etzem should be from all aspects. So there can't be that a chelik of was a yid zucht zucht Shloime soil. Yamot gitter tzitzis vakum zur Welt. Zucht elokus. That's what he's looking for. And elokus is everywhere. Something else. It's not an additional verb. The fact that elokus is also the mitzvahs is not an additional verb. Yeah, but that's verstehen. That's. Well, see, this is not a zaytige word. This word that is in order 35 is not just a side thing on the side, another taich in the Rambam. You see, when the Rebbe teiches, Le'es Ata and the Hadran, the Rebbe didn't explain yet how the three dargas, the way it is in B'yas Mashiach. The Gabi Idiyah sudden the Rebbe explained three dargas. There's the Huyas Baruch Lifnei Atzivui, there's the mitzvah, and the purpose of the mitzvah is that Seichel should come to the conclusion to the L'mayla Ma'aseh. That's the Rebbe brought in the Idiyah Salukus. Isra hit on the Rebbe Reiden, Kilu not Bekeshet before. That the Kavanah of Torah mitzvah is that not Stamazeh, that there should be Shlemas Torah, the Kavanah of the mitzvah is that the world should be a Keli Torah mitzvah. The Metzias Ha'elam, not Bishel the Metzias Ha'elam. The Metzias Ha'elam should be Behesim to Torah mitzvahs. Which we didn't get. So according to what we're learning now, it's Shaykh Torah mitzvah. The world could be a Keli Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs is Sidinim Pratim, and the world can be a Keli. Yet the Nivra can be a Keli to every Tadin. The Rebbe that Chnish Geret, how in B'yas Mashiach, where is it reflected this nekuda that there is an etzem which is higher b'chaldim than the ganze musik from Welt? There's only the Eibishter, and that Eibishter has to also be inside the Metzias. That the Rebbe is going to start in Sif Yud Beis, this nekuda. Here the Rebbe is focusing on the fact in Sif Yud Aleph, in Sif Yud and Yud Aleph, that the kavanah of Torah mitzvahs is that the world should be behesem Torah mitzvahs. But this part of the Order 35 is that's going to be more and more after we understand. The Rebbe connects it back to the Musik B'Yas Hashem. So what ends up being is the nekuda is the Huyas Baruch. As a Sazan Echet in Vel, that's Kilu beside that. If he's not defined, is there Umatum? That's not where the nekuda is. Nicht menemte mit dem was tut in Welt, so to speak. Menemte in Torah mitzvahs. That's what the nekuda says is. This Torah mitzvahs has to be everywhere. This nekuda that durch nemen out. Okay, we'll see that when we get to the in Sifid base. So now fees. So in a certain way, there's a little bit of we went into. We're not focusing on the three targets. The Rebbe is going into that what's the mechuvan of Torah. Why isn't it get to know that there was not going to be hunger? Lost love, because that shlemus Torah mitzvahs. That the fact that we're going to be able to learn, the world's going to be built in a way that's going to be ma'afshir us to learn. Because the kavanah is that the mitzias Torah mitzvahs should affect the mitzias of Welt. That Welt should be a behesim to the way the Eibishter wants. The world should be a keli to the ratzna, to the inyan of Holocaust, the Torah mitzvahs. The Fiza we're going to understand. It's very interesting what the Rebbe says here. V'zeh gam the Rebbe, the Rambam Mashasim v'chesin the Elchas Mashiach the last halachas in the last halacha hastes is in Inidiyas Hashem. Ina Shlemas Torah mitzvahs Shiur b'Meis Mashiach. Inyan zeh Shlemas Torah mitzvahs is the gedera ikri d'Meis Mashiach. That's the primary gedera what Mashiach is. So where on? Where is it expressed openly? The concept of Shlemas Torah mitzvahs is that you see that the ikr b'mitzvah mitzvah Rishene Gamamayel. I mean, the Rebbe already said it before, because all other mitzvahs, technically you could have a building based on Mikdash today. The pile, we need permits, this and that, but theoretically, they're saying it's not that we're missing the material. For Yidiyas Hashem, we don't have seichel today. It's not a question of the Welt is still, it's not, we don't have the possibility to have seichel b'shleimus. So it's not only we're missing, but there's side factors not letting us do the mitzvahs b'shleimus. The mitzvah itself is lacking, is the achisar. So the concept of the asal will be shlemat Torah mitzvahs is bizgalus in the primary mitzvah. The mitzvah achi yisaydis, which is the mitzvah of Yidiyas Hashem. Oh, so now there's like this. Was ist the mitzvah Yidiyas Hashem? Sagt the Politik gesagt. Kima shem mitzvah Yidiyas Hashem is shnei inyan. One inyan is mitzvah verstehen. Yesh matzir yesh matzir kodesh Yidiyas Hashem is apiseichel. Danach gefragt the idea the is hecher von seichel. The gam inyan zeh tzarich lizbeif in the leida. Here, but it's again the pnim. Beif in the leida mitzvah verstehen and mekanish verstehen. And mitzvah der herren, the fact that you can't understand them, that should be Mair in your mind. You should appreciate it. The Eber says, was wie viel ich verstehe gar nicht. You should have a certain Reichkeit. This, who is Baruch, should be be'efen of a Yediyah. So the Rebbe says like this. What's the last of this can be B'Shleimus. What's B'Shleimus? To be a Shleimus in Yediyah Apiseichel. Ultimate understanding of the Shleimus of Holocaust. And the Shleimus in the fact, wie viel wir nicht verstehen. The ultimate gilui of as a zacheren atzmos in seichel is be the ultimate be lost love, but it's going to be apiteva. So a person is going to have a mayach built to be able to have full scope of both of these inyan. So the Rebbe says, interesting touch. What touch is chachamim daily means a person is going to have the grace of seichel to verstehen. There's two tnuas in seichel. One tnua to verstehen, idea sachiv, to understand. There's another type of seichel, licht in vifle verstehen. Like so this has there's a type of seichel of a masan umasik, that his main tunu of a seichel is to try to malbish, to try to understand. Then there's another seichel, is a charif umaksha. Where was it? A charif umaksha, that the whole tunu of the limud is to find the kaishi of every. People that versteht nicht how much in it is muksha. So another tunu of seichel. It's a tunu of seichel that he's the grunt of it. That the ultimate aimek, how much you see a person learning a sukkah, this is one tunu is learn to verstehen. Or there's another tunu of seichel that he always notices what's shver, and people say nicht verstanden. This lashon, that lashon, this inyan, the inaccuracy of things. So for to have the aslam is going to the seichel of adam is going to be b'shleimus. The seichel adam is going to be behesem to kiyam mitzvah. The mitzvah is to know to the capacity that you can know, and then to come to the conclusion that everything that you know is garnished. To have both these nana b'shleimus, so you have to have both aspects of seichel adam is going to be b'shleimus. It was an agreser chacham, agreser versteher, or an agreser yadin. He'll have a chush in things that he doesn't understand. To find the limitation of every aspect. To find how this in it is nicht in ganz verstanden. That's another tchun in seichel. To find the shortcoming of every seichel that he understands. That's the yidin Torah mastum. Yidin mastum is not he's going to know Holocaust. He's going to evet havan as a third seichel, which he finds how things are sus. B'meil will be a keli. The ganze zach is not stam. He'll know both aspects of Holocaust. The code is that it should be a piseichel. It should be mitzad mitzis. So the Rambam sagt that the mitzis v'zayin as amasert veg. You'll have both of these in yonim mitzeichel b'shleimus. Then attaches these l'sheinis ביורים שיינים לגמרי, different הדרן. לכן, גם ביסיגות אז בירם, כי מזידיאס השם, שעוז תהיה קיום בשלמות, שהדרן צווי זכן. I just told you know what it says later. Okay, I told you the Mekivan Shemikre. Okay, we'll read it because Chavashin gesagt. We'll read that part and we'll go back to this part. Because this part is Shinach Havart, this is the Nach Perverted. Mekivan Shemikre in this Mishir Shkam Eilam Ba'adim Yonat Shev Shekim Ater Mitzvah Shleimus. The Chinkes V'ram Lefnei V'esigu the two Inan Chacham Del Din Zar Mastumim. That Chacham Delim is Achana Liyasigu, and Zar Mastumim is Achana K'mayim Lemachasm. Okay, that's it. But Lomer Zem with the Rebbe Taiches, we have a few minutes. It's nicht gepashtin. It's the Rebbe's like this. לכן גם ביסיגות אז בירם, כי מצידיאס השם בימי משיח שעשתי קיום בשלימוס, קייס ורמם שני עניון. erste Sache ist, wird verstehen, wie viel kann verstehen? כפי כך עוד. היינו שהסיגות אז בירם, כפי שצמצם את עצמי, לפי כך עוד. גידר הסייכל. Das בירם, wie der Ewisch hat sich herausgelost in Seichel. Fine. Then the Rambam says, come on, what is he adding? What, the Yam, the Karka is not taifas according to its Hagbolis. The Mayim. The Mayim overwhelm the Karka. They're surrounded by the Karka, by the Mayim. Yesigo das beidem is ve'lukus sich mit Samsung gewähnt to be a Shalom of Seichel. So that's where sich mit Samsung that Seichel Shabbat Tfisim. Then there's the fact that we can him nicht verstehen. But that's also man soll es verstehen, man kann nicht verstehen. This word very strong over here. That what do we mean when we say the third prat that the Seichel versteht, sie kann nicht verstehen? It's like this. Come on, the Mechazim Shiasigu, me soll maßig sein. Gam Pchines al-Kush al-Malam Gidra Seichel. Bedugmas ha-Mayam Mechazim Karkoi Seyam Leis al-Malam. There are touches. It's also Cheren and Seichel, the Lukus which is higher than Agdara. B'meile Verten is battle. It's not that he realizes he can't understand and therefore he blocks. That gives him a derher in the etzim which is higher than Tfisa, higher than Gdara. So it's this Mayim, the Lukus which is higher than Tfisa, it overwhelms him. The Nemte. It says, Omram, the Rebbe Madgish is over here. K'mei Shamayim, in the Vatim Esmak Mayam, Ele Mamala Maisam. The Rebbe says, the Zok doesn't be foolish. Here's the Rebbe saying how the part is that the Hui is Baruch is not in a way of, it's also Chern Imitzias. How does the Yam work? Not, She'eisem Mokim Gufim Ismalim Amay. Upulas Mayim, but you're actually Yisrael, and Sidif Nats, maybe Mechusab Amay. Eisi Yodavar Gam B'molar is the Yisavay. She'aseichel Gufa, Yechoder Amula B'ayidiyah, the Chunis Al-Kush Amalim Gidra Seichel. So the Rebbe is not stam that the idea or Rishayna should be Mitzad HaSeichel. The Seichel is all durchgenommen werden with the fact as Dan Eibisher was bekannt nicht verstehen. He result as der Herrn. So you have der Herr that the Eibisher is Tachas HaMayla. The Rebbe is not saying der Herrn, to der Herr that we cannot say that the Eibisher is a Asar Zach, which nothing could be said about it. But that to der Herrn a Hafla. Not a Hafla, the Eibisher is the most exalted being. A flaw in the fact that nothing could be said about the Eibishter. It's a little bit of a difference. There is the part of Sefer Kalaman is mit der Herr that the Eibishter Shleimus is higher than Sefer. Here they're saying another part. Mit der Herr, I mean, kein Sachen sagen wegen. But does go for mit der Herr a flaw in them. Mit der Herr, you can't say anything. Everything is limited, and the Eibishter is whatever he wants. That goof with the Herr, a certain is Herzach Sefer. It's not just someone says I don't know. I don't know because who am I to talk about this? So you're a derechedetz for this concept. Then the concept is Mary. Someone says this suge opens it up. It doesn't versteht es nicht. I don't know. Or someone feels that Gabi this aimek. Who am I to talk? That's a whole different shit. Er sagt nicht, dass versteht jener Sache. But hat derechedetz für jener Sache. So jener Sache herzach bei ihm. The Rebbe is not magdir and what, but there's a difference between someone. There is not that it's a slight difference, but it's a big difference. We're saying, ich kann nicht verstehen, weil ist Tachas HaShleimus. Ich kann gar nicht sagen wegen dem. Who am I that Seichel kann nicht reden, but the Seichel kann nicht, Stam is Seichel kann nicht reden. Anyway, the Eibishter has no taich, so we can't say anything about him. Or, mit der Hertes, you have a little derechedetz for this Eibishter. And you have the Ashtikal Bittel, who am I to Bechal, what is Seichel to Bechal talking anything about him? The Gabi Eibishter, you can't say anything. It should be in a way of idea. It's also Herren, der Inin is also Herren in Seichel. As the Rebbe is saying here. Was for Inin? Inin was which is not Shaykhs to Tfisa. But this, who is Bar is also Herren in Seichel. It means with the Herr to give us a Reichkeit, versteht sich. It's not the idea commercial different at Tziva. You're say, there's the Recheretz for this, but it's not the word of Shleimus. The Herr is a Shleimus. There's the English you cannot say anything about it. In them, go for the head and give yourself love. I'm saying just the Rebbe is not touching that. The Rebbe is saying that this elokush mal mitfisa should be also in way of idea, permeate your seder. Okay, the touching the other name. And the Veil the Rebbe says once we establish that even the third idea is not shlilas haseichel, it's that in seichel also cher nas da nebish was versteht nicht. So there's special klei seichel. There's one klei seichel to understand. There's one a mensch versteht das. Then there is appreciating things that are beyond you. That's another type of seichel. There's idea shlilas. Not understanding stuff. To be able to sense things that are beyond you, so to speak. Ultimate beyond you that you have nothing to say about it. Not that it's beyond you, that it's... But that's also, there's a keach haseichel which is mukhshar to sense the richuk of an Indian from the person. And that's going to... That's the Yed Dor Mastum, das ist ein Schlimmes. Okay, you have to be mafsik. Gut, wird doch mamschig sein, wie immer ist. Darf man ein sein in den Jahren, das ist nicht so spannend in den Jahren.